Welcome to the HR Empowerment Podcast, where we will uncover strategies and new insights from HR professionals who discuss up-to-date regulations, best practices, and the most pressing topics like diversity and equity, leadership, dealing with difficult situations, and much more that affect your bottom line and business. Thanks for joining us.
Hey everybody, Wendy Sellers here, the HR lady. JC and I are here to talk to you, continue talking to you about getting real in 2024. Hey JC, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. You know, Wendy, at the end of the last show, we got hot and heavy on the topic, and I totally forgot to talk about the interesting little fact that I want to bring to the table. You know,
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is brought to you by Aurora Trading Advantage. And believe it or not, Aurora, they're asked quite a bit whether or not the company is named after the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. But believe it or not, they're named after Isaac's dog, Aurora, or Rory Freeman, believe it or not. So they don't mind being connected to the Northern Lights either. Just a quick fact for everyone that's tuning in. If you're not already familiar with them, definitely stop by AuroraTradingAdvantage.com to learn more about what they offer. Wendy, back to you.
You're so awesome with your research. If you ever need research done, JC's the one to do it. So yeah, getting back to the fact that, job hunting is still on. And so, I don't want to scare our listeners, but I just want you to be aware that whether you have a great culture or whether you've been, you're here listening to improve your culture, just know that curiosity is still there. Recruiters are reaching out to your employees, whether your employees have a resume or not. If they have a LinkedIn profile or anybody at all knows them as a human being, they are being reached out to. And so some of the facts also is that 80% of job searches are done online. However, 85% of jobs are actually filled through networking.
Oh, wow.
I personally have referred so many people that I know and vice versa, where I've been referred to people as a consultant. And I'm like, oh, well, did you download my resume? Did you look at my information? They're like, no, we don't need to look at that because XYZ referred you and that's all we need to know. So do know that many companies are willing to hire your employees just because somebody else referred them.
And let's talk about the referring, the networking like that. It could even be within the four walls of your organization, ladies and gentlemen. You don't necessarily have to think of the employees as pigeonholed into a specific position. If Fred has been good doing the electronics for 40 years, but Fred has a talent for human resources, you know what? Let Fred go shadow or do something in HR for a little bit of time. Let them get to know him. Build opportunities of networking between people inside your four walls, and you might actually find the talent that you're looking for in the department right down the hall.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, I personally would rather stay with a company that I enjoy working with or that I don't hate to go to than start an entire new career. But sometimes, let's face it, that's just not possible, right? Because the company's small, they don't have options, but keep those relationships open. So when 2 years down the road, you have that perfect opportunity for an employee who left 2 years ago, that's when you reach out to them and say, hey, you want to come back?
Here's $1 million question for you, Wendy Sellers. So would you rather, okay, would you rather work for a company doing its thing or would you rather keep doing your own business, Wendy Sellers, the HR lady, or would you rather change jobs like every year?
So I'll answer it in a different way. I'll answer a few things. One, I don't think anybody wants to change jobs every year. However, I'm not going to speak for everybody because some people really love change and they're in jobs that they're only needed for a year, right? So their job is to be like a merger and acquisition or something like that. Downsizing, upsizing, and they're like, okay, I'm going to be here for a year. So that's a really good point there, JC. When you are listeners, when you're hiring people or looking at their resumes, don't judge because their resume looks like they're job hopping. They may have said, no, I only took this job for a year. And listeners, if you are looking for jobs, make sure you make that clear on your resume of why if you can, why you left a job, or this was only a 1-year contract job. Regarding me, nope, I'm going to be a consultant for life. I'd probably get fired if I was an actual employee, but
I love it.
So that's a whole other conversation for another time. I did want to say, though, half of I was reading some survey results here, and it is saying that, within the next 3 to 6 months, so this was from a 2023, end of 2023 report, so that's still relevant now. Within the next 3 to 6 months, an alarming 20% of frontline employees intend to depart from their current roles. Now, they may are just searching for a job, but it does also say, another report that I looked at recently said that it takes about 5 months for the average person to find a new job. So if you're thinking you're going to get a new job within the next 3 to 6 months, and it is taking 5 months to get that job through all the interview process, if you think any of your employees are not happy at work right now, you need to be going boom, 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 boom. We need to fix this immediately, because they're going to start searching and then they're going to leave. Now, sometimes there are people that we actually want them to leave. That's another conversation as well. But even if you want somebody to leave on their own, or you're telling them they have to exit, you still need to be planning in advance for filling that position, fixing anything wrong with that position and why the person didn't work out, whether you asked them to leave or they left on their own. So super important to know that your employees are most likely job hunting, even if it's just from referrals, or they're just, hey, let me see what's out there. Can I make more money? Can I work from home in my pajamas? Can I get more benefits? Can I get a career path and training and development? XYZ. What's important to me is something different than what's important to JC, and something different than what's important to your employees. Ask them, and then you will find out.
You bring up a fantastic point about working remotely. It was the hot push during the pandemic and after, but now we see a huge shift in that, where the remote jobs aren't as frequent. There's a ton of them out there, but not as frequent as what it used to be. A staggering 77% of employers face difficulties in filling vacant positions over the past year, believe it or not. Contributing to these issues is the fact that there are 1.5 million fewer Americans employed compared to 2020. Over a quarter of those individuals have left the workforce to prioritize caregiving responsibilities for family members. And there is a big skills gap on the table. Beyond the challenge of attracting suitable candidates, companies are finding it increasingly difficult to secure people possessing the necessary skills. On average, 44% of new hires require skills enhancements to effectively perform their roles. So when you're talking about talent acquisition, networking, bringing people on board, and enhancing those skill sets, do you hire for the person and the talents that you can build upon, or are you looking for someone that has all the skills at hand right away?
Yes. So yes to both. With that said, we're going to talk a little bit more of that about that in our next episode 3 of 5 on our series of Getting Real in 2024. So coming up next, we will be talking about a great company culture and how it affects retention, and we'll mix in there the answers to those questions. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining the HR Empowerment Podcast, brought to you by Aurora Training Advantage. We hope you've gained new insight and strategies to navigate the HR profession. We look forward to you joining us again on the HR Empowerment Podcast.